Hello. Allow me to present myself. My name is Viktoriya Telyashenko. I'm a freelance interpreter. I am a translator, so I work with text. So this presentation or conversation with you is going to be about written translation and written translators, because interpreters may have different peculiarities. So I'm a translator, and I specialize mostly in pharmaceutical industry and medical sphere. So other than this, I have two kids. They're 17 and 11 respectively, and it so happened that my experience of going freelance, it came together with emergence of my second child. So it all came together, and I will try and focus on that. After my second child was born, the written translation, full freelance, has become my main activity as a professional. So as you can see, a mother can be many different things. So you can be a personal consultant, you can be a doctor, you can be anything that you need to be. So what am I going to talk about, and for whom this presentation is there? That's important to understand. The superficial Google search produced a result which told me that among the translators, about 70% of the community are women. So I would suggest for us all to think today, how can you have it all in your life? Being a full-fledged freelance translator and a mother. Do you have to be all these two things together? Who can benefit from my presentation today? First of all, young mothers who have just recently become mothers or went on maternity leave but would like to get back to freelance interpreting or translating. And also future mothers who want or are about to get a child and now are thinking where to put the stress, on maternity or your work. So what I will focus on is I will share my personal experience. Don't take it as advice or recommendation. I don't like to advise anything to anyone. I'm just sharing my view of the situation, because we all have different life experiences, we have different life situations, we have different kids, but a word of experienced person can give you a useful hint to maybe be more prepared for these kind of situations, and I think that could be helpful for you. So the first thing we'll look into, is it at all possible to have it all in your life, maternity and freelance translation, and how to have it all together. Then we'll look into what will likely change soon and how to be prepared for these changes. And I'm going to share some tips and tricks with you and life hacks for you to have a better and easier maternity. So the main question is, do you have it all to have it all together in your life at one point in time? There is a widespread theory, and when the child is born in your life, you have to focus on the child only and forget about work for some time. I think that there lies a problem. For how long do you have to forget about work? Some say it's a year because it's the most important year in the life of a child. Some say 3 years. That's the average length of a maternity leave in our country. Then they go into kindergarten, then school, first year of school. All the mothers of school kids, they know that just as a first year of life, the first year of school is complicated. So when this period stretches for such long stretches of time, then it's very difficult to get back on track as a professional. There is a second option: hire a babysitter. But that's not my story. I won't give you any helpful tips and tricks because I didn't go that way. I didn't have a nanny or a babysitter, and I did that it was my conscious choice because I want to be there for my kid and I want to understand how my child lives and develops, and I want to invest. So my vision was to have it all together, work and maternity. In terms of maternity, what are the benefits? We are there for our child. We see them grow, we see them develop, we invest in that development, whichever we want, not somebody else's wants, and we see what the child eats, what is the dietary arrangement, and it's hugely important, and of course the joy of being a mother. And you are there 100%, not just far in between. And then when you want to stay in your job, after a lengthy break from your regular work, it's very hard to get back on track because your skills may go down a little bit, because our line of work is not unlike sports. You have to stay in shape. And maybe you've noticed if you went on long sabbaticals or you work with several languages, then you fell out of your community for a while, then you lost shape a little bit. And then you go back on a new event and you see that it's gotten quite hard for you to interpret or translate. But if it was a lengthy stretch of time that you were offline, it's going to get more difficult. Another important thing is making a living. Well, it can be a separate topic altogether. There may be nuances, but still, when you make a living doing your job, it is anyway good for your family budget. And that gives you as a woman a certain confidence. It raises your self-esteem. It allows you to be fulfilled, to have a fulfillment not only as a mother but as a member of society and a professional. And it's also your help, your redundant source of your plan B, just in case of some unexpected life situation to pop up. And I will later share my own personal story, what I had when I became a mother. So what will change? To put it short, everything will change. If you don't have children yet, don't have any hopes that the child will be born and it will tend to itself and you will go working. No. So many things will change with the emergence of a child. Your lifestyle will change. Your routine will change. And you might be surprised the way your body reacts. You might be very surprised. Oh, well, you never know in advance what kind of a child you will have. Will it be a screaming child? Will it be a calm and peaceful and docile? So you should be ready for everything to change. So be prepared. And my point is, you have to prepare yourself. Well, in any case, You have to prepare yourself, especially if you're planning on having it all together in your life, a child and your freelance job. So what is our bread and butter? Your clients. And clients, they are not born of a thin air. You have to look for them, you have to find them. Your leads. So first thing you fall back on is your old customers, your success cases. And I think a proper freelancer has to have a large pool of clients. Regardless of whether you are on a maternity or not, it provides you a steady stream of gigs, jobs, and you don't have these long dry stretches where you sit on the phone waiting for leads, or you're bored out of your wits and you are longing to get back to work. Of course you have to stress, you have to build your client portfolio, and that's what you do in order to be prepared. And in that customer pool, I recommend you to focus on those of them who give you small orders, small jobs, but the jobs that would allow for a long time to accomplish. In terms of maternity, those are the ideal customers. And take care of that beforehand, because those customers are your safety net in many ways. Another thing about relations with your old customers that are already in your pool as your child is already there, do you have to inform them that something changed in your life and the family situation has changed? That depends on several factors, but primarily it depends on your personal relations with those customers, whether you have them or not at all. So first of all, the PMs. So I think you will be well off if you inform them what has happened. And if you explain them that for some time, for a while at least, and then we'll see, depending on the character of a child, for some time you won't be able to take big translations or urgent translations, which is usually perceived quite normally. There's nothing scary about that. But again, make a point of it and ask them to please, if possible, give you these smaller jobs and small jobs that allow for a longer time to accomplish. And then you will navigate and maneuver around the problems. And then I put another point, expanding your topic portfolio, expanding the scope of topics you work with as a translator. I'm a medical translator, and those topics were not completely new to me, but having been a medical translator and not being a mother, I don't think I would be able to translate exchanges. So while you are still expecting, look them up. Look up those documents, the exchange certificate or something. I'm going to tell you later what it is. Not many people would take this job, because the layman would not always understand what it says. But for a pregnant mothers and their doctors, it's a document very much familiar.
Then, anything relating to pregnancy, you will have a better expertise in this field because you've been through this. I had, and I suppose I still have, quite a long-term project on pregnancy, specifically. So they came to me once, and then they returned, and I said, sorry, I'm busy. But the PM basically begged me to take this job on. They extended the deadline because the PM was saying you're the best translator for the job. But again, you need to know the topic. More on that. Breastfeeding, anything relates to that, or children's nutrition. I did a fair amount a project on childhood nutrition. This was something that I was feeding my kids with, because I had to actually have a look at the can of this food for children. So you would identify with the topic, and you will have the expertise because you're a mum. Vaccines, injections. Once again, I did a lot of work on vaccines and immunization, and only mums and doctors can make sense of what these vaccine certificates say. There are a fair number of standard documents, even the usual phrases that a pediatrician writes in an undecipherable handwriting. So make a mental note on all those topics. And this is how you expand the fields you translate, and then you could take these medical documents on. Some medical translators might be scared to take them, actually, but you won't. Moving right along. We live in a time of global change, and sometimes when you have a kid, you don't always have a million of clients, and those clients you have are not always best fit for a translator with young children. When I had my son, this is 2009, the crisis of 2008 still echoed. We moved to a different flat. My husband wasn't doing very well at his job because of the crisis, so I had to go and look for new clients with a very young child. But in terms of searching for clients, it doesn't really matter whether you have kids or not. You send your CVs, you do your test translations. I succeeded, actually, and I managed to build the clientele. And sometimes I'm so busy I don't have downtime at all right now. I'd like to emphasize the fact you have a child who sometimes fall ill, but this is no excuse for you not to deliver on deadlines, or this is not an excuse for poor quality. No. No and no. This is no valid reason, and don't even think of resorting to that excuse. Moving right along. Let's expand on the routine that you'll establish for yourself and your child. What's the structure of the day? So you have a child. Those who don't have kids might have noted and might have been alert to the mother's word saying, "We do so and so." But indeed, it's a confluence for a time, because you are together. You are a single unit. It's related to physiology, to psychology. Then the distance is gradually increased between you as the child becomes more and more independent. But it's still about you. It's still about us. Which means that you will be in very close relationship with your child. Regarding your routine, make sure it's a good fit for the both of you. And that applies to work as well. So sometimes you adapt your work to the requirements of your child and vice versa. I mean, there is no go-to options. I breastfeed every 3 hours and then the child sleep. That's a possibility, but it takes quite a long time to develop that routine. And there are always outliers in this normal routine, because sometimes your child might have stomachache, or sometimes the teeth are emerging. Just be prepared for that. So try to be flexible to all these unexpected events. So it's all about flexibility. If now all is well, then get down to work. If an emergency happens, then you need to think of different options to address that. That's why you need some room for maneuver to make sure you can deliver it on deadline, that you don't let your client down. You need to think in advance. what did I do? I like to sleep in the morning. So when my child is sleeping, I'm working at a later state. But you know, for the first 6 months of the child's life, moms are terribly deprived of sleep. Next, slow translating. You might have heard about this slowly living, slow food life philosophy, like doing everything without hurry. And this is the case for us. Where you want to retain your clients, you need to deliver good quality, you need to deliver work on time. So whenever you have small breaks, do some translation. If you can do more, you do more, and let your PM know, okay, I have more time, give me some more work. If you need more work, that is. Work anywhere, anytime. It's all about flexibility. You need to adapt your work routine to the routine you have with your child. Feel free to make use of any minute that you have. Now, you still have to do the housework. Try to do it together with your child, so that when your child is sleeping, you can devote that time to work. I was doing the cooking, the cleaning, when my child was awake. So we play with the child and do some work about the house. And then when the child was sleeping, I was working. Assistants. Who can that be? A babysitter? I won't expand on it much. This is an option. You can have like a temporary nanny or a temporary babysitter. You might invite her for a couple of hours when you need to go somewhere or do some work. That is pretty straightforward. Other options, your family, your neighbors, other kids, feel free to engage them. Even when a mother doesn't work, she would always welcome help. I'd like to emphasize that you need to be grateful for the help you've been given, because they don't have an obligation to help you out with your kid. And then you have the question, what about the father? Is dad supposed to help? My answer will be odd. Dads are not supposed to help. Why? Because it's his child too. Therefore, his commitment to taking care of the child should be equal to yours. So it's not about the father's helping. It's about father's obligation to spend some time with the kids. Therefore, invest in selecting the father of the child profusely, and this will pay off in the future. Having a dad who spends time with kids will give you some time to work, but it's more than that. It's some sort of support for a father, because, just to emphasize, in advance, you have no knowledge, neither you nor your dad, what might come in the future. We've been through a number of crises together. My father was actually grateful for me having a job that gave us more security, because when there were some gaps in income coming from his work, he was great that we had this backup option, this contingency plan. In 2015, our dad was away on a business that mattered to a state greatly. So I was alone with 2 kids for 1 month. When the father was going somewhere, he felt confident that I can handle 2 kids. Then he went away for 1 year. I was working, I was raising my kids, the dad wasn't help. I didn't spend any of my savings, so that I was earning enough to cover all our costs. And this was a relief for my husband. Therefore, I call on husbands, please let your wives work. Next, time management. This is one of my favorite subjects, I suppose. You can see all the basics in the slide, but the key idea is do not waste time. Think logistics thoroughly. Any logistics, beginning with any housekeeping you need to do, beginning with the pressing the button on your washing machine. What's the sequence? Make sure when one thing is done, you do the other simultaneously. Plan your logistics, where you places you travel to in the city. This is critical, and it saves you loads of time. Time you can spend working, getting a break, or having fun. Some tips. I recommend using some advanced technology, beginning from nappies and ending with robotic vacuum cleaners. This will save you time and energy. So if the technology can do the job, let the technology do it. Also, engaging others. You need to teach your child to be in contact with not only you, but other people as well, be it dad, grandparents, etc., or elder siblings too. This is good for the child as well. For example, in case of lockdown, you have surely seen it in your Facebook feed when the kids are there all tied up and the mom is working. And I was befuddled. What is that about? Because I'm getting used to the fact that the mother is working and the routines are set. This is quite possible to achieve, and desirable, in fact. Delegating. I brought this up before. Delegate anything you can. The grandma wants to look after the kids? Great. Let her do it. And while they're outside, going to a park, do your work. Also, delivery. When I had my kids, my husband did shopping, but then I realized it's inefficient because he has to go to the supermarket at the end of work day. The supermarkets are jam-packed with people, so we lose 1 hour of the time that Dad could spend with us. Use the delivery services. Then cooking. Engage your grandparents for cooking, because grandmas love doing some dumplings that you can freeze and you can eject out of your freezers when needed. Cleaning. Distribute roles for cleaning. You can use your dad or you can use your elder kids. I haven't cleaned my house for 10 years because my husband and my elder kids take care of that. What a wonderful reason to have babies. Now, to sum up, what is the conclusion? This is a definitely mission possible. You can be both a mother and a translator, because it will keep you alert and you will actually complete more tasks than just an average mom. When my kid and I could go to the garden to have a walk, and then the neighbors said, "All right, what did you bake today?" Because they could hear the wonderful odors, because I love baking. And I said, "Oh, I spent 3 days doing beetroot soup." I didn't even mention to them that I was working, because they would hate me for it, I suppose. So the more you plan, the more you do, the more you manage. Therefore, don't leave the profession and be good mums. Thank you. I don't know if we have time for Q&A, but if you do have a question, I'm still around until Sunday. Feel free to approach me. Viktoriya, thank you so much. It's lunchtime, therefore we do have the time for Q&A. First and foremost, thank you very much. If I may express my admiration at a successful mom. I saw the English title of this presentation, Getting It All Done. Hence my question. Have you used any time management systems such as Get Things Done? Or have you used any specific tools or time planners or software? If so, which methods? If you tried and you didn't like it, then why wasn't it a good fit? Thank you for your question. No, I did not use any of those because I love doing things myself and keeping things on track. Because if it's a cookie cutter or a template, I don't like templates. Like going on a trip on a cruise ship. I hate cruise ships because it's all been planned, not by me. I love doing it myself, though. You know, if everything's in flux, if you need to make rapid changes, and I'm actually a huge fan of to-do lists. This is also very helpful. I do lists not only in relation to my work, but also when I do the housework, and then you tick the boxes, and then you tick another box, and I think, well done. And sometimes you have this box of like doing nothing, and you tick this box and give yourself props. What a lovely turn of a phrase that I planned doing nothing these days. This is critical for everyone. Andrei had a question as well, I remember. I might have missed this because I was slightly late for your presentation. Another addition to the client list. Your colleagues could give you some work or could be your backup option. Andrei, certainly this is a possibility, but I never use this. Why? Because I like controlling things myself. Resorting to your colleagues makes you dependent on other person. Well, maybe this is my own personal weird notions of things, but when you're dependent on a person, they can let you down. So, adds more stress to me. That's why I never used this. This is why I need the night time. My night time is my top productivity hours. So, there's the father. We have this nickname for dad that's called nighttime mom. So the child got out of bed and then approached the father first, because he knows he shouldn't even touch mom in the morning. So this is all about roles distribution and obligations distribution. Morning was the time for the dad, so that I could work at night and sleep in. What a wonderful idea. I had this notion of interpretation. For example, somebody is on maternity leave, and you could distribute and give like 2-hour jobs to young mother, and then you could distribute all the travel jobs involving travel to other. But then I realized we don't have the transparency in the market required for this kind of coordination between interpreters. It's my understanding that we have here with us highly motivated, control junkies, people. And the question is, how do you stop? If you love working in an unhealthy way. What a lovely question. This is why we have the forced mixed track. I found the answer for it when the lockdown began. I realized I got the balance. It's just that I just didn't have any work at the time. But these were 2 very happy weeks of my life. Yeah, sometimes when you don't have work, you think, oh, that's it, I nailed it. But then when you got work and you think, okay, it's time for me to stop. And then you get this wonderful project coming, or the PM is begging you, saying, well, this is what you're specializing in. This was your client. Why do you decline this job? And then you simply can't stop. Well, I have this wishful thinking that I'll just push for a little bit. I mean, when you'd have additional income sources that will support you, and translation is not important in terms of earning. But then I get a question from my daughters, who was 17-year-old. He said, "Mom, do you actually believe you'll stop working someday?" Maybe not. Maybe I am a workaholic. Maybe there's no stopping for me after all. Remembering 2015, you never know what's coming. I was alone with 2 kids, and I realized that my car had full tank of petrol. I realized my destination, that I grab all the cash I have and just would have to leave. Well, I don't know. Maybe these are like some complexes, because I've survived tons of crises in my life. I was born when Brezhnev was the president of the party. I remember Brezhnev addressing us from the telly. I survived blackouts. I survived tons of things. Maybe this is something that stops me sending the letter to all my clients saying I'm retiring. I mean, no. So true. Any other questions?
How old should a child be already, or to what age should it grow until when you are ready to get back to translation? My last translation job before my child was born was on the previous evening. We went to the doctor, and I said the translation is ready. And she says, if you don't have enough time, please come in the morning. So I finished my translation, and then I went to give birth. And then I went back home. So it took 3 days. I didn't work, of course, in the hospital while I was giving birth, only because they didn't send you any. Yeah, because they had a deadline long enough for me to peacefully give birth and then get back. And in 3 days I completed the translation. Well, as interpreters, we're back online in 2 weeks, right? Usually it's 2 weeks after childbirth, after delivery, and they go back to work. Or some of the interpreter mothers left breast milk in a fridge. But when it's sleeping, when the child is sleeping, it's one thing. But when the child is already walking and crawling, and it had me watch. He had me watch himself play while I was translating. To follow up this topic, when after the child is 3 years old, will they let you go to work? Yeah, they will. If you're playing with your child actively, but then there came a time when I was so annoying maybe to my kid. Okay, he says, "Mom, go do your business. I'm gonna be on my own." So as during the quarantine, I did not have to coerce my children to let me work. They all had a clear understanding that mom is working. She's making a living. So when the kid was a toddler, he didn't understand what I was doing. So sometimes I just kept him in my field of vision while I was working. So you keep your child next to you. When he gets older, he goes to his room and tends to his Legos and toys. So I have time to work. Thank you, Viktoriya. Thank you for sharing this experience. To follow up to your answer, because I used to work in an office space while I was a mother. That is a more complex story, yes. And I had only 3 days break, and after I got back from the hospital, I was a project distribution manager, so I stayed in profession. but I had a gradual increase of my work time. First 1 hour per day, then 2 hours per day, then 3 hours per day. Yeah, it's the same story with me, but only not in the office space, but at home. So thanks a lot for this presentation and life experience. Thank you. Thank you. Christina, when did you return after childbirth? Which number is the most shocking? Well, first was nothing. So I went back to office work after 3 years, but it took me a year to go back to translation at home. In a month after childbirth, I had my first written translation, and a couple of months my first interpreting after maternity leave. And I was driving with my husband and a child, and then I go interpret. They await me in the car, and then I go back to car, and we go back home. Okay, are there more questions? We have so many questions about the life balance. Okay, then we can wrap this.